Member, thank the committee for your time, and glad to be here with my friend, the gentlelady from Virginia, Abigail. I appreciate it, and we've now done this for 3 Congresses, and I think it's important. I don't come here saying that I think I've got all the answers or that I know exactly what we should do or shouldn't do. It's hard. Here's the simple thing. We don't want to be projecting to the American people that we are somehow making decisions when we are doing our job here that's connected to our own profit, our own personal financial stake. And I think the transparency that was embraced a decade ago was a step in the right direction so that people can understand. But we also, as going through all this, know the burdens that go with that and so forth. And we know that when you have members coming into Congress, if they have to divest themselves entirely of their life's work, dump their equities between November election and January 3rd, that may not attract a whole lot of people to want to come serve in Congress. So we've got to find a way to do this that recognizes the reality that if you're trading equities, in the middle of while you're doing your job, that raises certain questions. It just does. If I'm sitting on the Judiciary Committee and we've got a antitrust bill before us to break up Google or to debate the size and scope and power of big tech, or if we're having conversations and somebody has a big position in Tesla and they're advancing, EV mandates and that we should be investing in batteries, or if you're a Texan and have, significant ownership in oil and gas, and, that might raise certain flags. And I do and have had. And my wife's family, grandfather worked for Phillips Petroleum in Phillips, Texas, just up there north of Amarillo. And the reality is we've got to send a signal to the country that we're not profiteering, or the other side of this that people don't talk about very often, we're not actually making decisions on policy because of our position and choosing to take a walk on some policy choice or engage in some policy choice because of some position that we might have financially. So I think this is something that we should take up. But I think it should be one of those where we sit in a round table and we figure out how to do this the right way. Because I've talked to people, we embrace the idea of broadly traded mutual funds is a good place to land, blind trust. I've had several members come up to me and go, well, I tried to look into a blind trust because I wanted to send a signal that I was not, doing something I shouldn't be doing, and it's really complex and hard. Well, maybe we could simplify that. Maybe we can come up with a structure that makes it work so that you can take your life's work, move it over here, and have true blindness, to the gentlelady's point earlier. What I think we've got to do, though, is address it. This can't be one of those things that we just kind of walk along and avoid it. Let's sit down, figure out how we're going to do it, and do it in a way that the American people will actually believe that we're doing it for their best interest, and not just to score political points. Right? This isn't just to say, oh, look at us, we got a big win that we've cleaned up Congress finally. Right? We need to do something here that just sends a signal that we get it. We shouldn't be day trading while we're voting on the crap that is affected by, or that our day trading is affected by. So with that, I will yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roy. We're now going to take names. We're going to throw people in a queue, do it a little bit informally, and jump around. I'm really excited about this topic and appreciate the work that you are both doing in this space. I think one of the big concerns is sometimes the appearance of impropriety that exists amongst the American public. One of my goals and commitments here is to restore trust, accountability, transparency to the American people about how Congress is operating, and that includes that appearance of impropriety that I think can exist. In your research on this bill and in this space, do you think that we need a solution that's broader than just members of Congress in the House and the Senate, that we should also be looking at the executive branch as well, or do you think that the focus should remain mostly here between members and senators?
You want to?
I'll go first on this. So I want to have broad ethics reforms for everyone, right? That would be an ultimate goal. Chip and I have chosen to focus our legislation on Congress, the House of Representatives and the Senate, because quite literally we need to get our own house in order. Notably, executive branch has really strong and in some cases very similar requirements related to divestiture for many executive branch employees, which I think can serve as an important model. Broadly speaking, I support the notion and the principle of expanding this across branches of government, but I think that we have a responsibility to get it right with us. We wanted to be focused in creation of our legislation, and so focused it on Congress, on the legislative branch, but I have no opposition to expanding it more broadly. But the intent here is to really get it right, and the judicial branch versus the executive branch versus the legislative branch. Understandably, we have kind of different priorities. We're the one taking votes and moving markets. So it does seem that we should be addressing that issue. We're the ones who get people to elect us and deserve that trust.
So I would answer it in general agreement, probably a little bit more aggressively in the view of we should apply this to the co-equal branches because every opinion the court hears is touching on these issues. Every one of the, frankly, to my political, philosophical chagrin, the executive branch has a whole heck of a lot to do with the regulatory state and impacting business, maybe in ways that none of us have the power directly, right? I mean, there are individuals who work for agencies who have significantly more power than any one of us do. So I think we should absolutely be looking at that across the board. I co-sponsored legislation with Senator Cornyn, or I did the companion, applying to the judiciary the same kind of transparency that we had in Congress. I think we ought to be figuring out how to treat the branches equally.
I tend to agree with you that I think this is broader. I think one of the areas I think we're also going to have to explore is what I would call senior staff. As it relates to that, as we know, some of those folks are as equally involved in decision-making process as some rank-and-file members here. I think we have some great examples of where things have been done correctly. We see that in some of the executive branch agencies where there's some IRS tax treatments that allow members to be able to escape from some of their previous investments when they come into Congress, so that they will remove that appearance of impropriety. One of the things we're going to work on this Congress. So I appreciate your time. I'm going to yield